All right, welcome to Dropping In at Pipeline Audio. This is number 111. It's April 10th, 2021. Still here, still breathing for the most part. And just check, make sure everything's working. If you want to jump in on the stream, just click a link on the show notes in YouTube and Facebook and wherever else you're seeing this. And it looks like everything's working, so let's return to the stream. So today I was looking at interfaces with loopback. It seems like, and I saw a claim that I always kind of wondered who's making Focusrite's drivers, right? I saw a claim that Desiccon was making their drivers, so it's it's the same drivers as everybody else, basically. Almost all the USB interfaces using the same drivers, same company making the drivers for them anyway. They have varying degrees of implementation. So like for the longest time, the Behringer X32 or whatever the USB, the larger USB drivers for Behringer and Midas's stuff were missing all but the first two Windows drivers. So if you were doing WDM or Wave Out or whatever, you only have the first stereo pair. And maybe they fixed it by now. I haven't pulled out my Actually, I loaned my X18 to somebody not too long ago. Let's see how maybe they'll find that out. It was a bummer. I kept trying to go back to old versions and get the parts back. But it seems like even though it's the same company making these drivers and they seem to have the same maximum possible performance, there's a lot of variation among the minimal processor possible performance. So anyways, notice that Focusrite has loopback lately. Hey everybody, only took you 20 years to get loopback. I think RME had it since forever, but for the most part, there really wasn't loopback, right? There was virtual audio cable, of course, but you would actually physically plug a cable from an output to an input, and that sucks. But lately, all sorts of interfaces have gotten loopbacks on them. We noticed the Motu's got that. The Focusrites. The Focusrite was the first one that I really noticed of the newer stuff getting it. There were some old Motu drivers that actually have loopback on them. My Mark of the Unicorn 896 Mark III, I think, has that. I'm not sure how long it had it, though, because I never noticed it before. Actually, I don't have that unit here right now, so maybe I could figure that out later. Maybe it's recent. Maybe, for all I know, the reason that Motu's new USB drivers are nowhere near as good as their previous PCI drivers or Firewire drivers or whatever is that they're using Desiccon drivers as well. But they got loopback. Focusrite's got loopback, and now I see Audient has loopback. So they all seem to. It seems like loopback is a thing that's coming with the standard Desiccon driver models. But when it comes down to it, you need more loopbacks. One is cool, but one is awesome because there's so many things that you couldn't do at all before. But let's say you're using Skype, right? You need one loopback to get into Skype. You need one loopback to get back out of Skype, unless you want to give up all your low latency ASIO drivers. And if you want to do that, for a very long time, you've been able to use Voicemeeter, and it would pretty much take care of you. But loopbacks are awesome. They make you, I don't know, to me, they make it a lot less scary. The issue with them, to me, is that you lose those channels, depending. So on RME, you absolutely lose your, whatever loopbacks channels you're using. They're gone from your hardware. With the Focusrite and the Motu stuff, as far as I know, and the other Desiccon stuff, you have an actual loopback input, and you can assign what you want to it. So you may not lose a set of inputs, because that's kind of an extra set of inputs. So hold on 1 second. It would be nice to have more loopbacks. So like I said, let's ignore the mono stereo thing for a second. Well, let's just say Skype to in and out of Skype, in and out of Zoom, whatever, so that you can record it and at low latencies. You need at least 2 loopbacks, right? That 2 loopbacks becomes 4 because most everything in Windows is going to force you to use a stereo channel. So as far as I know, Zoom is the same way. Even this Restream whatever Live Studio Pro that I'm using is kind of has the same thing. So it'd be nice to have more loopbacks, and it's kind of weird to me. Why can't we just make more virtual loopbacks? I don't see. I mean, I'm sure you run into a limit sometime, but I would feel a lot better about virtual loopbacks than I do about using, let's say, Odin audio router, synchronous audio router. Let me pull that one up because that's the one I always get wrong. Synchronous audio router. Okay. I know I've tried all these. I didn't have a good time with this one. I had Odin running for a while and it was doing okay. Let's see. So you know what? They did a tutorial on setting it up in Reaper, so I give them major credit for that. But no, it's not opening for some reason. Oh, it's in the to-do. Let's check out the user manual. I just want to see what this looks like. It's got a per application. Okay, so that's another thing. We're adding latency in on these things. This one looks neat, though. I should give synchronous audio router more of a chance. But like I say, we could use more loopbacks. It would be nice if you guys, hardware interface makers, could give us drivers with like at least 6. I could use 8. I could probably use 10, but I think 8 would do it. So please, we beg of you. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, I've been looking at different interfaces with that, and actually for my cousin, I had to look for interfaces with digital out, and because he's going to be, for you guys who move between, you're carrying a laptop and you plug it into your home studio, you plug it in at Pro Studios, whatever. It's nice to have a digital out that you can send to the whatever studio you're in. And I'm not sure if I'm finding any with ADAT out that are bus powered. Do you guys know of any, or is that just asking for too much from bus powering? I mean, it shouldn't, because my RME Digiface HDSP or Digiface USB has 4 ADAT ins and 4 ADAT outs and a headphone out, and it's all bus powered. So I think this could be done, but I'm not really seeing anything. As an alternative to the RME Babyface Pro, it looks like Audient has the ID22, but I don't think it's bus powered. That's the only thing. And it definitely has a 12 volt input. Maybe it can be bus powered, but it has an optical out. So I was looking at SPDIF to optical converters and vice versa. I saw some $12 ones on Amazon. I wonder if they work. I have it on good authority that they do, so it'd be interesting to find out. So I might get some of those just to check. So one of the things I was looking at this week, I saw it in a forum or something, was the Audient Evo 8. And, I don't typically talk much about Audient because there was just so much hype over their stuff not so long ago. But, it's probably good stuff. The manufacturers always got back to me right away. This particular one is called the Evo 8, and it's another USB interface. I'm assuming it's bus powered. I really hope it is. And it has 4 mic preamps, and those are on combo jacks, so I assume they're line as well. It has, like most of the audience stuff, it has 1 instrument input. It doesn't have multiples, but it's got 1. And it's like a single knob. It's got 2 headphone outs, and it's really simple looking, just a brick with 4 mic pre's on it, and it's an interface. So again, probably going to take those Dessicon drivers, but it looks good. It's was it $200, and so it's about the same price as their ID 14. What was the one called? ID 4 or something? One of their other audience. Let's see which one it is. ID. It is. I think it's the ID4. Yeah, ID4 seems to be the same-ish, but I mean, it's like I say, different things. It's that one's 2 mic pre's and kind of a fancier knobs, more ergonomic looking, and I don't know if this thing has phantom power. It says it's bus powered, so I'm looking at the Evo again. Sorry, let me take a look. Does it have phantom power? Ooh, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, it says it has phantom power. Okay, so cool. So I've been looking around for things that I can carry in my laptop case. I would love to have more loop back. I saw the Focusrite 8i6, I think it's called. I think it's bus powered. Let's pull that up. And it had an onboard loop back. Plus, I think it had SPDIF or something, so that gives me a second loop back, and then I could probably just plug in the analog out to an analog in for one more loop back. But I can't remember. I don't think this thing's bus powered either. I like them bus powered. That makes things easier. So I don't really know. I have no idea what to get. It's still looking like that Babyface Pro is the best thing out there, but man, that's a lot of chunks to pay for a interface. Especially for people who don't move around too much or make a whole bunch of money off them. So that's what I saw in there. Something really, really cool this week. And Simon Larkin told me about this. And man, this is awesome. This is the OBS, or Open Broadcast Software, the thing that I'm using to stream right now and what a lot of people use. It's the OBS audio monitor. And what they say is a plugin for OBS Studio to add audio monitor dock and filter. It allows you to put the audio of an OBS source to an audio device by adding the monitor filter on the source in OBS Studio. And what it is, it's they call it a filter, so basically it's a plugin. Like, you know how you can run VST plugins and things in OBS? You put it in the same place. And how many times on this channel we've talked about, OBS not having an actual audio output and what a pain that is, and how you do have to do a bunch of trickery, and really all you can do is use the one monitor it's got, and then you give up your confidence monitoring and everything. But sorry, in this case, this plugin gives you an audio output. And you can choose any device you've got on your system, as far as I know. Not ASIO. It has to be like a Windows driver model or Core Audio or whatever. But you put the plug-in in, and then you pick the output that it's going to go out, and then you have a volume control. You can link it to your to the volume control in your OBS mixer, and the mute control or the show hide control. It's pretty cool. Now, like, let's say you're going to have 4 different audio sources go out to the same output. You have to add that filter on each one and reset it up on each channel. It'd be cool if they centrally allowed you to add the different sources to it. And for all I know, maybe it does, but it didn't look like it. But it's a very small price to pay for what this thing can do. So it really really opened up some doors. So I made a couple videos over the last couple days where I haven't yet put it on this particular computer, but on the other two computers, I've got it set so that, in fact, I'll show you the routing right here. So the first routing is how I would do it with the RME or whatever. And this would be for my setup here. And I kind of put up a set of parameters and things. So I said that, my mic that I'm talking into right now, it needs to go to the stream audience. It also gets used as the talkback mic to the studio. It's also the Reaper input for in case I'm recording my live stream, which I just screwed up because I didn't hit record in Reaper this week like an idiot. So I'm going to have to hope that the internet worked here. It's got to get into Restream chat, and that's, if you guys join right now, that's what we'd be talking on, and possibly Google Skype and all that stuff. Reaper's output needs to go to the stream audience so that you guys can hear it. It needs to go to the headphones in the studio. It needs to go to the Restream chat, and it, of course, needs to go to the control room out so I can hear it, right? Not to say, again, my mic doesn't need that. So this is why having only one monitor output in OBS was a killer, because there were certain things I needed in there and certain things I couldn't have in there. I don't want to, if I hear myself talk while I'm doing this, it's going to mess me all up. The standard Windows output and YouTube apps and stuff, that output needs to go to the stream audience. Like, let's say we're all critiquing a video or something. You guys all need to be able to hear it. Restream chat, well, you need to be able to hear that if we're discussing it, right? And, Google and all that, in Skype, in case you're using that. And, of course, it needs to go to the control room out because I got to hear that video. And let's say you're putting game audio in here. The game needs to go out to your stream audience, of course, right? To your Twitchers or whatever you call them. It has to go out to Restream chat and has to go out the control room out because you got to hear your own game. And Restream chat, its output needs to go to the stream audience so that you guys can hear it out there and to the control room. And we can make it a lot more tricky by having Restream able to talk to Discord and all that kind of stuff. But I made a pretty complex routing system. Then I checked how you would do it with the USB interface and voice meter. And finally, I set up a version. You could ask me for these pictures if you need, where it's a USB interface. So in this case, I used my my Scarlett Solo at home. Give me 1 second. Let me just mute real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, so in this case, I have a Scarlett Solo at home, and I want to be able to. I don't really need to go out and talk to the studio or anything, so it doesn't really need control talkback outputs, but still have something like the control room outs, right? I'm mixing at home and stuff, and so in that case, I can take that out of there, but everything else is still there. And what I ended up doing. I did try with voice meter and a bunch of virtual audio cables, and it really worked pretty damn well, actually. And but in the end, I just took off Restream, and let me tell you about how I did this. So hopefully Simon Larkin's going to clean up. I did like an 1.5 video of me fumbling around on my Solo. I had actually done it earlier on another laptop and setup, but what it is I've set up, I install voice meter. When you install voice meter Potato, it gives you 3 virtual audio cables. And then I also put in, installed regular virtual audio cable. And also a ways back, I had bought virtual audio cable A and B, which gives you 2 more. So in all, I have 6 virtual audio cables, 6 stereo virtual audio cables that I can use for this. And so what I did is I'm sending my mic into OBS in. I'm sending my mic into Reaper. I'm sending Reaper's reroute out. You know, we've talked about that many times on here. You could use Restream if you wanted, same thing. Sending that into OBS in the OBS ASIO driver. I'm sending Restream chats output. So if you guys are on here and you talk, I can hear you. That's going to the OBS input as well. And I have YouTube out going into OBS, and I have, let's say, a game out going into OBS. And then I have a set of monitor outputs, and that is... my monitor A actually goes to my control room outputs. And kind of the reason you need to do this is when you... If you still want to hear your speakers, you have to be able to mix all these sources in. Otherwise, you're just going to be picking one. Like either you can hear Reaper, or you can hear YouTube, or you can hear a game, or you can hear Restream chat. I mean, you could send them all to the same source from where they're coming from, but then you'd end up with this crazy feedback loop and stuff. So what I really did is I set one OBS monitor out and sent that to the control room speakers. And that way I still get the speaker volume control from your laptop. That's a nice thing to have. And so I called the three sources A, B, and C. Source. So my OBS monitor out, my Reaper doesn't actually go through this because the most multi-client drivers, like your ASIO drivers, even the Essicon drivers, will happily still, when you're using your ASIO inputs and outputs, will still make it to your speaker output. So that's already going there. So I'm not having reroute go out to my speakers. I am having reroute go to Restream chat and wherever else, maybe your Discord or whatever. So anyway, so I'll look at my OBS monitor out. A goes to the control room speakers. It's listening to Restream in, YouTube out, and game out. And those are all coming from the OBS audio monitoring plugin. This plugin right here, OBS Audio Monitor, which is free. Go download it from obsproject.com, and they've got it in there. It's just called Audio Monitor. And so I have another monitor out, which is, again, you have to put in a new OBS Audio Monitor plugin for each source, or for each output. And I have that going, being sourced, actually, from the ASIO in interface 1, which is my mic, the ASIO in reroute, which is Reaper, source A, which is source A, which is Restream, and source C, which is the game out. And actually, I have this wrong. This isn't how this is. The source out is actually source B and source C. So actually, it's not even source A. Okay, hold on. I'm confusing myself. So this one needs to hear Reaper, and it needs to hear YouTube. It needs to hear the games, but it doesn't want to hear Restream. So that is an error there. I'm going to take this out. Sorry, guys. I will fix this. That's why it's good to be explaining this stuff, because I can fix this while I'm going. As far as I know, that's right. So you want to hear YouTube on there. You want to hear... this is for this OBS monitor out B is what the people on your chat are going to hear. Not your audience. Your audience is getting the actual... actually, audience is getting something else. In this case, actually, the audience will be getting this output. So it's the audience is going to hear Reaper. It's going to hear this mic that I'm talking in right now. It's going to hear YouTube, and it's going to hear your source C. And that's going into Voicemeeter input, which is another virtual audio cable. Not actually using Voicemeeter. It's just Voicemeeter installs 3 virtual audio cables called Voicemeeter input output, Voicemeeter aux, and Voicemeeter VAIO3. And so I'm using a loop back out of monitor B out, and it's going into the Restream in. So that's one loop back. Another loop back that's happening is YouTube out. That's going to a loop back. Game out's going to a loop back, and Restream out is going to a loop back. And the way those work, it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm using virtual audio cable for these loopbacks. And, you know, the one they call output is your input and the input is your output. I don't know. It gets a little bit confusing, but it works. And to me, this OBS monitor out is a game changer. It really is handy. And so what I end up doing, because I am mixing these sources to my regular desktop audio, not my ASIO, but it's actually coming out the same output. In order to make this work so that it always works when I turn on my computer, I had to set OBS as a startup. And I don't think that's really tricky. You probably know how to do that. You open up your startup folder if you have one, or else you use your shell startup command. You can Google this, how to put programs in startup in Windows or whatever. But so if OBS starts first, everything's good. I do still have a little bit of a question what's going to happen when let's say on my other laptop that I'm doing this with the desktop audio right now, with the onboard laptop audio. What's going to happen when I plug in and unplug an audio interface if I have one on there? That's going to change things around a lot. I mean, I guess I could just leave an audio interface plugged in all the time, but I'm betting there's a way that if I really get smart about it, it's not going to hurt. I really wish Windows wouldn't change your order when you turn on and turn off devices. I had to install, thank you, Avid. I installed Pro Tools Developer, whatever, this week, and for some reason that thing changed my output order. But Windows likes to do this. So when you plug in and unplug a USB thing, it's going to change things. But I have a feeling I can figure out a way to set this up so that it'll stay put. But I really wish you could lock these things in place. That's talking to you, Bill Gates, or whoever's running that part of Microsoft right now. Please just lock those things in place so we don't have to worry every single time. But this is a tricky routing puzzle, but it should be doable. I've got it working on 2 computers pretty well, and hopefully you guys can check that out. Sorry, we got some band practice or teaching or something. Let me mute for a second. I'm going to see if I can clear this up a little bit. I don't know if that's going to be any quieter, but I hope so. Okay, so next thing up here. In fact, so anybody who watched that other video about setting this thing up, if you want to make a video or tutorial or something to really simplify all the rambling I did, that'd be awesome. So I want to take a look at really cool post. Everybody is talking about the EVRE20, which is actually the mic that I'm talking into right now, and just things about how mics work and gain works. Somebody thought that if they bought an RE20, they could move further away from the mic and have it sound better or whatever. The variable D, the not as goofy proximity effect that the RE20 does is great, but they weren't really. Somebody had told them something kind of wrong. So let me read that. I think this user's name is Jaddy on the Gear Space, what they're calling it now for him. So he's responding to somebody. He said the original quote was from Stuix. Maybe I'm simply worried by the fact that I own a budget pre, having often read that with hungry gain dynamics, the preamp quality and clean game availability has a big impact on the sound, and having somewhat tested this myth with my brother's SM7B. So I'm convinced now that 99.99999% of SM7Bs out there never should have been bought. They weren't the right mic for the person that was that it was recommended to, and not only was it not the right mic, it was actually a very bad choice. And it's just this nonsense marketing that it's like back in the day where everything was, what did we have back in the day? Everything was an ADAD or, whatever the thing was in Unmixed Magazine's front cover that week, that's the thing you got to have. It's gotten to the point where people are saying it as a meme, SM7 bead, because you don't need an SM7. It takes a hell of a lot of gain, and what are you getting? You really, you're just hearing music industry marketing nonsense and myths. So one of the parts was this part right here, the preamp quality and clean gain available has a big impact on the sound. And the reason they're saying that is because most of these mics, the RE20 and the SM7, I mean, you hear it on right now, right? They're very low gain, and you need a lot of gain. There's an idea that as you turn up mic preamp gain, it gets a lot noisier. The signal to noise ratio. So of course it's going to get noisier as you turn up the gain, but the claim is that the signal to noise ratio narrows. So you have a lower signal to noise ratio the higher up the mic preamp you are. And that could be true to an extent, and it could be, especially if you get out of the linear range of the mic preamp, if you actually do. Like let's say you have a really loud source and you're just cranking up the clipping, then you're just bringing noise up and you're not getting more signal. So, but in reality, I'll read off a little part of something I wrote this week, actually, because part of buying an SM7B, and I'm convinced this is driven by the marketing guys, is because the next thing you need is some kind of thing called a cloud lifter. Not need, but the thing they claim you need is a cloud lifter or a cathedral pipes, or I forget. There's a couple other things that they're mic preamps that you put in front of mics. And I'll read what I wrote, and I wrote this because of actual testing that I've done, and common sense, and what other people have said as well. So I said and I tested this myself. You can go to pipelineaudio.net and see this. When this has actually been tested, even the lowly Behringer is quieter at the same gain as preamp plus the cloud lifter, cathedral, fethead, whatever. There used to possibly be an issue, but now every time it's measured, it seems to be a myth, that some part of a cheap mic pre's travel was noisier than the rest. Put a steady signal into your pre and test the signal to noise ratio across the whole range, and you'll find that until it gets in the nonlinear gain range, it'll be amazingly consistent. The real plus of these devices is to make you feel better at the expense of added noise. These things add noise. They don't take it down. Also, if you really feel the need to get much more gain out of something because you don't like where on the dBFS scale your signal is reaching, they can be a psychological boost there as well. Albeit, again, at the expense of noise, but possibly with reduced quantization error. I mean, that's how I see it. That's how I measure it. And that seems to be how reality would dictate it. So let me go on. Jaddy answers. Hungry gain dynamics? Scare quotes. It never ceases to amaze me the rubbish terminology people come up with. Yep. Don't overcomplicate it. Lower output mics need more gain. If you don't have gain, you won't get enough level out of it. You can calculate the required gain based on the specifications. And in this case, the specs are the one thing, the self noise and the sensitivity specs, they're actually usually pretty accurate, and they're usually apples to mountain apples at least, and usually you can actually do an apples to apples comparison with them, and they're surprisingly right on the money. And Stuix also said, one of my hopes when it comes to the RE20 is that less gain is needed when literally kissing it. And so Jaddy answers, well, you can hope, but it's not going to work out that way. Here's how it works. A mic sensitivity spec is rated as a level in millivolts, dBV, or dBu, at an absolute sound pressure of 1 Pascal, which translates to 94 decibels sound pressure level. So when a 94 decibel SPL sound hits the front grille of an RE20, the mic produces 1.5 millivolts. That voltage converts to minus 54.2 dBu. For that sound to produce a studio reference level of plus 4 dBu, the preamp needs to amplify it 54.2 dB to get to 0 dBu, then another 4 dB to get it to plus 4 for a total of 58.2 decibels of gain for a standard balanced line level. If the device your preamp feeds needs less than that, you just apply less gain. Your preamp can provide up to 65 decibels of gain. All looks so he's talking about a specific preamp. All looks good so far, right? More than enough gain? Not quite. Remember that 1 Pascal is 94 decibels, that's sound pressure level sound. What produces that? I think if you're recording speech, right? Normal human speech at a distance of 1 foot comes in at around 70 dB SPL. So to get that sound up to plus 4 dBu, you need 82.2 decibel of gain. Yikes, that's a lot. Does any preamp do that? Sure, but not many. But hang on, we're not done yet. The basic way SPL works is, if you cut the distance from the source to the mic or ear in half, you increase the SPL by 6 decibels. So this is that, whenever you guys hear about the inverse square law. Inverse square law. Cut the distance in half again, you get another 6 dB. So if you start talking at 1 foot away from the mic, then move to 6 inches, you increase the level 6 dB. Move to 3 inches, up you go another 6 dB. That's 12 decibels more level just by moving in. That puts your need for gain back to 70 decibels, which is reasonable, but not quite what your preamp does. See what kissing it does? It should be obvious that moving away does the same thing in reverse. Double the distance, lose 6 decibels, etc. Works with speakers and ears too. How is the SM58 different? To start with, its output at 1 Pascal, 94 dB SPL, is minus 54 dBV. So we already have a problem in that the two mics are specified using a different reference, dBV versus MV, but it's not a problem to convert. Minus 54 dBV is easily converted to minus 52.3 dBu. And looking at that in comparison to the RE20, it starts out at 2 decibels higher output at the same distance. So again, moving in closer, the SM58 will always have a 2 decibel higher output advantage over the RE20, and technically you'd need 2 decibels left to hit the less gain to hit studio reference level. So unfortunately, the RE20 is not going to help you stay farther back from the mic. However, since it has much less proximity effect, it will sound much more natural at 3 inch than the SM58, which will boost lows at that distance. Back to your preamp though, it may seem like it's at least 5 decibels short of having enough gain, but perhaps not. It depends on what comes next. If you go into a mixer, there's always an input gain control where you can pick up a few dB, no problem. Of course, that's with added noise. If you go into an audio interface, same thing. There's usually an input gain control you can lift. Well, if you're going from a mic preamp to a mic preamp or whatever, of course, yeah, it might have a line input, but. And finally, going back to your original post, your singing. The singing voice is almost always louder than the speaking voice, sometimes a whole lot louder. You could easily end up turning down your preamp gain, but your reference here is your SM58. The RE20 will not be louder, it will be 2 decibels lower at the same distance. And then this is where, what do we talk about every single week on here? So here's the original poster again, Stuix. Sorry. But this is all budget and colored gear, which when paired with the somewhat dark and transformer coupled mic, not necessarily talking about the RE20, could very quickly become too much, and if one does not pay enough attention when gain staging. So there's all kinds of our favorite words in there, right? So, Jaddy answers here. Oh, wait now. Transformer coupled mics are not dark by definition. Do you think a U87 is dark? Nope. Transformer. Budget gear is not dark either, just because it costs less. The fact is it's darn hard to build a mic preamp that isn't pretty spectacular and transparent. I've been saying that for years. Like, I'm telling you, modern mic preamps, the ones that come in your cheapo interface. They're pretty damn good. You can go to my site and actually take a look at the specs because I've measured these things. Or, measure them yourself if you don't trust me. And as I've said a whole lot lately, preamps don't add color. Mics and acoustics do. If you want deliberate electronic color, grab an EQ and compressor. Yes. What is this color anyway? You guys can never agree on it anyway, and you can't hear it when you claim it's there anyhow. Obviously different than something like purposely distorting a guitar amp or whatever. Yeah, gain staging. This hangs on the ragged edge of mythology. It's like people think changing... Sorry. It's like people think changing gain alters the colors or something. Well, I sure hope not. If it does, you have true junk in your hands. Of course, we're okay, so I'm breaking in here again. Not like on a guitar amp where you're purposely distorting it and you expect it to change when you change the gain. What gain staging is supposed to do is to optimize your total dynamic range by ideally getting each stage to clip at the same point. So if you wang the gain on your preamp all the way up, kiss the mic, and sing your heart out, the mic preamp is likely to clip. If the next device it feeds is many dB away from clipping under those conditions, you haven't gain staged. I'm really starting to hate the term now, because the preamp is your limiting factor. For most pro-level gear, gain staging, officially hating it, has already been done mostly for you by the virtue of level standards. Your preamp clips at plus 26 and it has an input gain and a meter. If you're going next into a Motu M2, you'd adjust the input gain on the M2 according to its meter and not drive it into clipping. Gain staged. If your next device was a Mackie 1202 VLZ4, I'm just pulling stuff out of the air here, the maximum line input is plus 22, so you'd bump the pre down 4 decibels and you're done. But the key point here is gain changes gain, not color. More gain brings up more noise. Less brings it down. Match the points of overload of each device in the chain, and you have both maximized total system peak level and minimized system noise. One last word on color, hating that one too. But anyway, color is made of primarily two things. The first is frequency response. This is the brighter, darker, warmer, cooler thing. All are easily achieved with EQ. Learning exactly how takes a bit of effort. The second part of color is distortion, caused by level moving into transformer saturation. And that comes in many flavors. And this one's going to kill everybody out there here. But this is true. I've measured this same thing. So, a little bit of drum roll here. People assume transformers add distortion. And that is partially correct under certain conditions, but transformers at mic levels are very clean. Transformers operated at or below design parameters are nearly distortionless. But if you stress them, like push too much level into a low-level transformer, you get two kinds of distortion. First, harmonic distortion, a mix of, but mostly odd-order harmonics during dropping in level as their signal goes up. As their order goes up, sorry. So the higher order harmonic is going to be lower than the lower order harmonic, with much more distortion happening at very low frequencies. That's a bit of color, but the big one is intermodulation distortion, literally one sound modulating another. Typically strong bass frequencies, amplitude, modulating high frequencies, giving the sound a gritty, growly, gravelly color. This happens strongly with abused transformers and is quite audible. I'm not sure why anyone would think it's good, though, and it's something that transformer designers have been beating out of their designs pretty well. But that and frequency response changes is color, and nothing you can't do with the plugin. But please understand, it's not easy to abuse a line-level transformer and nearly impossible at mic levels. The classic one everyone pays hundreds for, the WE111C, doesn't begin to color anything until you slam audio that averages over plus 22 dBu, and not many devices will even do that. I'd put transformers on the growing list of devices that don't do enough to improve or damage audio to warrant the trouble and cost, at least not without a whole lot of fuss. So hopefully that leaves you something to think about. That's about all I got to energy for today. But please, if you like this stuff, like, comment, subscribe, all those goodies, and I'll see you guys next week.